even grief must be reported. In 2025 China, this sentence is becoming reality. A Shanghai petitioner, Yu Zhonghuan, was soft-detained and cut off from food. Homeowners defending their rights in Guangdong were lured into arrest. The pastor and congregants of Beijing Zion Church were detained en masse, and online tributes to Yu Menglong are labeled negative emotions and scrubbed wholesale. From speech censorship and suppression of faith to unified control over emotion itself, the CCP has entered an unprecedented era of emotional totalitarianism. Don't miss the next drop. Subscribe and enable the bell. Can you imagine? In 2025 China, an elderly father is locked at home for 5 days, no food, no medicine, his blood pressure surging to 230, simply because he once petitioned to get back the home that was forcibly demolished. In Guangdong, a group of apartment buyers defending their rights are lured by police and arrested. In Beijing, an entire church is taken away, its pastor and 30 congregants vanish overnight, and online, even mourning a deceased entertainer may be censored, deleted, and warned against. This is not a novel or a TV melodrama. It is today's China. In this country, grief must be reported, faith must be approved, and telling the truth requires risk. Anyone who dares to speak may be silenced, yet more and more people are resisting silence in their own ways. A Shanghai father, soft-detained, starving, and out of medicine. Let's begin with an elderly father in Shanghai, Yu Zhonghuan, and something that clenches the heart. On the eve of the CCP's fourth plenum, Shanghai stepped up stability maintenance, meaning preventing destabilizing factors. Yu Zhonghuan was maintained at home, in other words, controlled and confined, unable to go anywhere. He was soft-detained for over 5 days, unable to go out, even basic needs like food and medicine became a problem. He has hypertension, his daughter is seriously ill, both began running out of food and medicine. He said his blood pressure spiked to 232/136 mmHg, an extremely dangerous level. Helpless, he wrote a plea directly to Shanghai Party Secretary Qin Jining. I've been besieged for 5 days, no medicine, no vegetables, no fruit. Blood pressure 232/136. My daughter's medicine is running out. If this continues, I could have a stroke. Guarding his home were so-called black security personnel, men he described as earning cabbage price wages while doing the dirty work of detaining people. They are also exploited at the bottom, he lamented. Why must we harm each other? Why was he treated this way? It goes back to an earlier ordeal. Yu's family had a house in Pudong, over 1,200 square meters, with proper title, yet it was forcibly demolished. Compensation and resettlement were delayed repeatedly, so he began petitioning. Tragically, his wife died 2 years ago. Now it's just him and his ailing daughter. The pressure didn't relent, it escalated. What began with Pudong authorities became pressure from his household registration district, Jing'an's Jiangning Road subdistrict, who took over to continue suppressing him. Things turned increasingly like a horror movie. He said someone wanted to send him to a black jail, an extra-legal detention site used to hold petitioners. For burly men guarded his door, blocking neighbors from bringing him food, urging them instead to persuade him to obediently go to Chongming Island. Now if I open the door, he said, they're ready to rush in and drag me to a black jail. On October 15, 2 Shanghai rights defenders, retired teacher Gu Guoping and fellow petitioner Lu Jimei, went to visit him. As they reached the compound gate, 6 burly men bolted, with Gu filming as he ran after them. Yu Zhonghuan is trapped at home, Gu said. He can't buy anything or see a doctor. He's run out of everything and can barely survive. He called for public attention, media coverage, and conscientious officials to step in. Liizhou, Guangdong, beyond the sales contract, common area, and fear. In Liizhou City, Guangdong, a property dispute escalated into hundreds of homeowners surrounding a police station in a rights defense storm. This happened at the Jinuehuafu residential complex. Owners recently discovered that in Phase 2, buildings 12 to 15, the entire first-floor area of 617.35 square meters does not belong to the community. On September 25, the subdistrict office abruptly announced that this space had long been planned as a home care comprehensive service center and had been handed over to the government in August. Owners were furious. Mr. Zheng said, although the contract mentioned a senior center and community service center, who knew this space would be given to the subdistrict for free? And no one said it wouldn't count toward our common area. Think about it, you buy 120 square meters, lose 20% to common area, end up with under 100 square meters of actual living space, then another 600 plus M superscript 2 on the ground floor is taken away. Who wouldn't be angry? This isn't only a housing issue, it touches the property law, disclosure obligations in sales contracts, and government ancillary construction policies for elder care facilities. Owners questioned, even if the government requires an elder center, shouldn't the developer have disclosed clearly at purchase? Rights defense actions began in September. On the night of October 12, the situation suddenly escalated. Police deployed heavy-handed tactics. One female owner active in the protests was tricked with, "Your husband had a car accident," lured out, and detained, leaving her child alone at home. She was held for 24 hours before release. Police then tried to seize another owner. The complex erupted, hundreds massed at the police station in protest, and a standoff lasted over an hour. Police didn't even show summons documents and used deceit to arrest people, Mr. Zheng said. That's not law-based administration, it destroys procedural justice. Some owners working in public institutions received phone calls summoning them to meetings at the municipal party committee, raising suspicion of pressure. Meanwhile, many videos and posts about the incident were taken down, fueling the sense that the waters run deep. A closed community to be open to the public? Residents push back. The core dispute, the government says it's a community service center to be open to the public. But Jinuehuafu is a gated community. Large numbers of outsiders entering would raise safety and quality of life concerns. We bought into a residence, many said, not next to an eldercare hub. More seriously, it's a trust issue. Contracts were vague, the announcement felt like, act first, report later, communications with authorities were difficult, and pressure tactics and information blocks were used. Owners repeatedly petitioned, but no responsible department stepped forward, tensions only deepened. This isn't a one-off dispute. It reflects structural problems in real estate and community governance. Beijing Zion Church, from freedom to gather to even online is illegal. Now to a case drawing international attention. China's well-known Zion Church has been swept up. Starting October 10, founder Pastor Jean Mingri and about 30 preachers were detained by police. The news shocked church circles and spurred concern among observers of religious freedom in China. Many consider this the harshest campaign against China's underground Protestant communities since 2018. Why target Zion? Zion Church isn't a secret sect, it's a famous house church, i.e., non-state church. Founded by Pastor Jean Mingri, who came to faith after personally witnessing June 4, 1989, he later studied theology, also in the United States, and returned to Beijing to establish an independent, freely gathering church. Open and free in atmosphere, Sunday services once drew up to 1,500 attendees, far beyond a typical small home church. In 2018, authorities shut the church for illegal gathering and briefly detained Pastor Jean. Zion didn't disappear, it moved online, even holding Zoom Christmas services with over 200,000 viewers. That level of influence, for authorities, goes beyond a faith group. A new phase in religious control? According to Le Monde, there's a deeper political signal. The CCP recognizes 5 official religions, but all activities must be under party management. Doctrine and preaching must be vetted. Any church that won't cooperate, grows too fast, spreads across cities, or builds wide networks becomes a perceived risk. Notably, just before the crackdown, the Politburo convened on advancing the Sinicization of religion. She emphasized guiding religions to adapt to socialist society, i.e., you may believe, but your doctrine must obey the party. Soon after, new rules banned online religious content and online services. Network-based religious activity was effectively choked off. It signals a rapidly shrinking space for religious freedom. Why is the state newly anxious about religion? Scholars say it's not incidental. With economic downturn and rising unemployment, anxiety and spiritual emptiness spread, and people turn to religion for solace and moral grounding. Protestantism in particular, shaped by American and Korean evangelical influences, has grown fast. Official 2018 figures put Protestants at 38 million, nearly double a decade prior. Add house churches like Zion, and estimates top 80 million. For a regime insisting on ideological uniformity, that's a potential challenge. Le Monde notes CCP controls have moved from politicized to institutionalized, and now to technologized, i.e., strict network surveillance to prevent online religious communities. So in China, religion is constrained not only in physical space but also online. Live-streamed services, virtual Bible studies, and posting religious content can all be violations. There's also a delicate diplomatic context. Pastor Jin's wife and child have long lived in the United States. The timing came as rumors swirled of a potential new Xi-Trump meeting. The U.S. reacted quickly. Secretary of State Rubio condemned the CCP's hostility toward Christians and demanded the immediate release of detained pastors and missionaries. Observers expect rising international attention and possible diplomatic repercussions. Do you think religious freedom is still possible in China today? Share your thoughts below. Behind the Menglong case, China enters emotional totalitarianism. In China today, even grief can be censored. George Orwell's 1984 has evolved into a Chinese parable for the present. On September 11, Menglong was reported to have died in a fall. The matter might have faded, yet China erupted. Not because he was ultra-famous, but because the official conclusion came too fast, too simple, and the bits of disclosed evidence seemed too absurd. People didn't buy it. Netizens demanded answers. The case ignited public indignation nationwide, across Weibo, Douban, Jihu, and overseas platforms, and the search for truth continued relentlessly. The wave of questioning burst through the CCP's speech controls and spread internationally. Outlets like the BBC and Foreign Policy reported on it, and a global petition for justice surpassed 400,000 signatures. This public outcry exceeds past individual cases in scope, participation, depth, and perseverance. China's shift to emotional totalitarianism. Taiwanese scholar Hung Yaonan argues that the sustained discourse is less about the mystery of death and more about a systemic phenomenon. The CCP's desire to control grief itself has moved beyond speech censorship into a new phase of emotional governance. In other words, in China you cannot merely avoid wrong speech, even having the wrong feelings can be risky. Emotion has entered the stability maintenance checklist. The case unfolded ahead of the fourth plenum. In early September, the Cyberspace Administration launched a 2-month campaign to purge negative and pessimistic emotions online. Targets included nihilistic life views, reading is useless, effort is useless, etc. In short, if you post commentary reflecting grim realities, it may be treated as a destabilizing factor. This is no longer just a cleanup of political dissent, it's a governance project targeting personal feelings and collective mood. Institutionally, it signals an upgrade, from content control to emotion control, bringing feelings under surveillance, censorship, and even punishment. When a simple venting Weibo post can trigger alarms, wrong emotions become a political risk source. Anxiety and depression are not treated as mental health issues but flagged as potential social instability factors. This surpasses 1984-style language control and becomes a new version of emotional totalitarianism. The Menglong effect, from language censorship to emotion censorship. Speculations about the case flooded the web: abuse, entanglement in elite black money schemes, even sacrifice theories. Outlandish as they seem, they reflect logic born of collective trauma. The key question: why do people prefer these narratives to the official one? After former Premier Li Keqiang died suddenly, authorities heavily managed public mourning to prevent a repeat of mass incidents like those after Zhou Enlai or Hu Yaobang. Over-prevention only heightens public suspicion that there's more to the story. Under strict controls, conspiracy theories become a self-healing tool. It's not that everyone believes them, it's that more people no longer believe the official version. When information is cut off, doubts scrubbed, comments erased, and keywords unsearchable, when questioning accounts vanish, people learn not how to believe, but how to doubt. The CCP has trained people to survive by filling in the blanks. What people truly resist is silent disappearance. Foreign Policy put it powerfully: if someone so well-known can quietly disappear before the public eye, what guarantees remain for ordinary people? What people feel about Menglong is not just the passing of an idol, but a rehearsal of their own fate, that they, too, could vanish overnight, be deleted, and no one would know they existed. After his passing, Yu's Weibo followers jumped by 1.7 million, not all fans, but people following to participate in a collective mourning and symbolic resistance for truth. Each comment is not just a tribute, it's a refusal to be erased, saying, "I am here." The most absurd part isn't the murkiness of his death but the efficiency and scale of deletion. A questioning post disappears in minutes, a resident who heard a noise is silenced at the door, an entire community is bought off or intimidated into silence. These are not isolated incidents but institutionalized routine. The CCP excels at making people quietly vanish from history, memory, and digital space, a high form of erasure governance, a total negation of human dignity. When did we accept that there are questions we must not ask? The deeper question. In the CCP system, when did we learn to accept, do not ask, as normal? In essence, the aftermath of this incident is a systematic test of public obedience to the official narrative, of whether we tolerate indifference to others' suffering, and of the limits of our self-censorship of emotion. The true absurdity of the Menglong effect is the realization that under CCP rule, even grief may require filing, mourning can be illegal, and your inner feelings can become a political problem. This is no longer 1984, it is 2025, in the flesh.